You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
Welcome to the Dressage Today podcast's Training Buzz. These short podcasts bring you the best tips straight from our subscription video site, Dressage Today On Demand. To get full access to all our videos, go to ondemand.dressagetoday.com and enter promo code DTPodcast to save 15% off your subscription. Now, listen in on this week's Buzz and enjoy the ride. In today's Buzz, we hear from Grand Prix trainers and competitors Todd Flettrich and Ruth Hogan-Poulsen. They discuss what leg yield is, how to ride it, and challenges people may encounter. Executing a proper leg yield helps the horse with rhythm, straightness, and suppleness, and teaches him to move sideways and cross all four legs.
Ruth and I thought we would start to discuss the leg yield, what it is, some common issues, the problems that riders have. So what is a leg yield? Ruth.
So a leg yield is one of the first pieces of lateral work that we introduce to our horses. We're traveling forward and sideways in the same amount, the same forward and equally sideways. We are flexed to the opposite direction of travel. Unlike many of the other pieces of lateral work like haunches in, where you are flexed in the direction of travel. So the two pieces of lateral work that do that are leg yield and shoulder in, and shoulder in's harder. So we are going to start with the leg yield. It helps with rhythm, it helps with straightness, it helps with suppleness. It teaches the horse to move sideways for the first time, cross over all four legs, and the rider has to manage the horse's balance and spine so that the shoulders only slightly lead the haunches when we're riding along a line to a certain path, say down the center line and leg yielding out towards the track.
Yes. Yeah. And some of our common issues that we see are neck, overbending in the neck, losing the outside shoulder, losing impulsion and rhythm. Fairly common also is, back again, our driving aids. The rider becomes nagging the horse to go sideways and forwards instead of, and then losing his lateral or longitudinal balance. Very important. And I like to teach it from the beginning, from the center line or turning down the quarter line, heading to the direction of the rail. But there are other methods, moving away from the rail to the center, towards the center line. There's leg yield along the wall.
There's so many different directions that we can do it. And you know what you said about the balance and what happens when the rider or we struggle or the horse struggles. I always try to go back to, is he in front of my driving aids and is he supple? Because if we're missing either of those two, something is going to not work.
Yeah.
And so if you kind of keep it really simple and think about whether the impulsion and the rider's weight is maintained in the correct direction and whether the horse is supple. Now, having said that about suppleness, though, there's not a lot of bend in leg yield. But when you put your inside leg back to go sideways, a lot of times the horses will kind of brace against that inside leg.
Which a common issue is tilting of the head, which is a lack of acceptance of the outside rein.
Exactly.
And the connection of the outside rein with the inside flexion. Let's go back and let's say this. You already mentioned it about the inside leg slightly back, outside leg at the girth. If you're post on the inside diagonal.
Correct.
Inside rein develops or encourages flexion. Outside rein controls the outside shoulder. Outside leg keeps the forward going. The inside leg encourages the horse to go sideways. All said and done, also staying centered on top of the horse is very important, that the horse doesn't feel like you're collapsing to the inside, that therefore he's not underneath you. but also that your body is centered and going with the direction of the horse. So
Right.
to the direction of the horse, excuse me.
I think it's the first time for some of my students who they really get an idea of having to ride both sides. It really encourages what we're always preaching, but you really feel it sometimes the first time, inside leg to outside rein.
Yeah.
And it really is an eye-opener that you have to manage both sides of your channel. Your channel being your right leg to your right rein and your left leg to your left rein. And keeping the horse in the middle of that you're stacking its vertebrae up so that it aligns within that channel.
And that said, that also is your shoulders and his hips and your hips align, that they're not out of sorts.
That's right. And so when you talk about sitting in the direction of travel, if you were carrying a kid on your back, piggyback, and they lean to the side, you'd step under them to make it feel more comfortable. And it's the same with the horses. If we want to go to the right, we need to be stepping or putting our weight to the right. But a lot of times, my riders misunderstand that. And they drop a right shoulder thinking that they're sitting to the right. But in actuality, when they drop the right shoulder, their weight goes to the left.
Opposite side, yeah.
So I always ask my riders, do you know how to ice skate? And most of them say they have tried it once. When you step off to go in a direction to the right when you're skating, you would step towards your right leg to go to the right. Your spine would stay over your hips, your head and torso, so that you didn't fall.
I love it.
And that's
I love
the
that.
same kind of feeling where you might step to your direction of travel into that stirrup in the direction you want to go.
And I think one of the things I really encourage also in the aids of asking for the leg yield, that the rider, yes, we already mentioned rhythm, but that the rider doesn't use the leg so strong that it contracts the muscles, and therefore both rider and horse stiffen on each other.
Agree.
And that's where rhythm comes in. The rhythm, ride a correct rhythm.
Do you use your sideways or your lateral leg aid in rhythm?
I do, but not as I do it more as a leg that says continue rather than always a driving aid. It's more of yeah.
I also do that, and I explain that to my students a little bit, like they can only pick up and cross that leg in a certain moment in the stride. So if you're having a constant leg pressure, you're actually asking them to be behind your leg because they can't move it over in that exact moment. So I also, and that's why we post on the wrong diagonal, because it's easier to close your leg when you're in the sit position and you want to talk to that inside hind leg. It's easier to think on, off, because that's actually when the horse can do it.
And at the moment the leg is in the air, it's the easiest moment to manipulate it or direct it in the right direction.
We hope you enjoyed this bonus podcast. What would you like to learn about, and what tips would you like to hear? Email me, Stephanie, at sruff@equinenetwork.com or reach out to us on social media. Remember, go to ondemand.dressagetoday.com and enter promo code DTPodcast to save 15% off your subscription to our online catalog. Thanks for listening.